What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting these possibilities for you to consider, enabling you to come up with your own conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoders around the world, wherever you may be. My name is Logan. I'm going to be your tour guide for this presentation on Ted Bundy, the serial killer, the psychopath, as they called him. Ted Bundy, the serial killer, decoded. I'm somebody who studies a lot of people. I'm big into psychology. I've studied a lot of serial killers, the Zodiac killer, Ted Bundy, the serial killer, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer. I decoded Jeffrey Dahmer. We're going to talk about some If you're somebody who wants to learn how to break code, this video will be for you. If you're somebody who wants to learn astrology, this video will be for you. So let's jump into this. And first start with the topics. I just have two. Number one, we're going to talk about the obvious. And then number two, we're going to get into the astrological breakdown. I'm going to leave these timestamps in the description of the video in case you want to jump right to the astrological part. Be up to you. Right? But let's first talk about the obvious. Okay? The obvious. And the obvious will blow your mind. I mean, this should put your jaw on the floor. It did mine. I mean, I don't really get blown away anymore, but this was like, wow. In your face, wow. So notice it's circled in the right there is Ted Bundy's birthday, where he was born, Burlington, Vermont, and where he was electrocuted in the chair, Rayford, Florida. So going up here is and this is how valuable the location of where you're living right now is. Where you were born, the location, how important it is. Some of you will have profound layers of breaking your code just by where you were born and where you live right now if you've moved away from home. And this is a wow factor for Ted Bundy. He was born in Burlington, Vermont, the latitude, longitude, 44 degrees north, 73 degrees west, and then he got electrocuted in Rayford, Florida, 30 degrees north, 82 degrees west. And you just add up all four and you get 229. And folks, this is like, this is mind-blowing because I decoded the beast. I have two of them. I have the Beast Part 1, Beast Part 2 exclusively on Patreon. But what is the beast? The zodiac wheel above, which is harvesting the energy. Sun, moon, all the celestials, the constellation, the stars. Well, in that decode, I broke down Revelation 13 verses 18 in the New Testament, theology at play here. It's the number of the beast, 603. Revelation 13 verses 18. And the technique here is, and I've done this many times now, it's called theonumerology. And all you have to do is add up all 13 chapters, the verses, right here. All of the 13 chapters and the verses, you add them up till you get to chapter 13, verses 18, and look at what number we get. Like, wow. 229, folks. Number of the beast. For it is the number of a man. For it is a human number. 666. Ted Bundy, man. And 666, when you add those numbers up, you get 18. And 18th Nakshatra is in Scorpio, and that's where his sun is in astrology. I'm going to show you that. So, I mean, is he the only beast? No, we're all the beast. Mankind is the beast because we're carbon. He just happened to get a pretty crazy code. My final answer is that this man didn't have a choice. That is my final answer. Without budging and trying to get convinced otherwise, because the code shows me a screenplay and a predestination. This man didn't have a choice. And if you think about it, who would ever sign up for that? Who? Man, the guy was on the run, pins and needles, always looking over his shoulder, fight or flight so much in his life. That's a hellish life to live through. And then he gets electrocuted, having to face that. Definitely part of the beast, as we all are. So be grateful. Next time you complain about your life, be grateful you didn't get his code, because he didn't have a choice. He killed all those people. All those people didn't have choices. Maybe they were, if there is such a thing as karma, maybe the people he did kill, maybe they were really bad people in their past life. And he got to take them out based upon the screenplay they got last time. So you just be grateful that you didn't get this code that this guy got and had to be put in the electric chair and go like that, because he was pleading for his life. All right, let's get into some more details. Let's talk about his birthday. He was born on November 24th, 24 hours in a day. He has a lot of ties to Saturn, Kronos. Matter of fact, his birth card, the Nine of Hearts, which is the card for November 24th, sits in the Saturn position. Meaning, when I go to, let's just first show you November, come down to the 24th, there it is, the 24th, he's got the Nine of Hearts. And when you look to the card system, here's his card right here. It sits in the horizontal Saturn line and the vertical Saturn line. The guy has a Saturn energy completely. And he only shares it with Venus. These cards swap to this position right here with Venus. Venus, Saturn, Venus, Saturn, Venus, Saturn. And all those women he killed. So he's got the Nine of Hearts. And it turns into the Nine of Cups in the tarot. Card number 45. And this card is wish fulfillment. That's what it means. Now, obviously, the wish fulfillment, he was being fulfilled by his murders. If you go and watch some of the psychologists that break it down, and he was like cold-hearted, but he actually enjoyed it. That's how mentally ill he was. So the Nine of Cups wish fulfillment for Ted Bundy, yeah, well, he enjoyed mutilating and killing and strangling and bludgeoning and raping and everything that he did, all the nasty stuff. That's what was his wish fulfillment, being used as an avatar. I mean, we're talking Westworld, man. That's what we can bring into this. Westworld, being able to go down and shoot people that are not real. Because essentially we're living in a simulation. This reality is not real. It's a simulation. It's a hologram. We're in a movie. The movie's not, we watch movies, it's not real. But what's so fascinating about this 45, right here, this is what he was labeled as. A psychopath. Psychopath. And that psychopath, again, when you go to the card system, well, that 45th card sits in the Saturn line. Kronos, Father Time. Okay? The connections there are just, I mean, they're completely in our face here. The dialed in aspect of this guy's code is like mind blowing. Being tied to the number of the beast, being tied to wish fulfillment for murdering and raping and killing and bludgeoning and strangling and mutilating and all that stuff that he did. Just insane. So here is his death card. Put to death on the 24th, another 24. See, Saturn is 24 hours in a day. He was born on the 24th. He passed away on the 24th in the electric chair in 1989 in Rayford, Florida. And the January 24th card, the Three of Diamonds. Card 29. So we just simply add up 29 and 9. And what do we get? 38. How did he die? Right here. How did he die? Yeah. Scripted reality. This is what's written in the script for people. This is as dialed in as you're going to get. One of the most prolific serial killers, this is how dialed in this guy's code was. Doesn't have a choice, man. That's why I'm telling all of you, and I keep saying it, not everybody incarnates to play out the good character. There has to be villains. There has to be murderers. There has to be this and there has to be that. The darkness to challenge the light. And you're playing out your role. You're playing out your screenplay. And again, it should make you grateful that you didn't get this guy's code. It does me. And this 38 is going to be tied to his name. Through chemistry. There's the 88. We know what 88 is tied to. Ra, and Ra in Hebrew means evil. But the 88 goes to strontium, and strontium has 38 protons. And this is his birth and death card. And this is his birth name. It's Cowell is his right there. It's not Bundy, it's Cowell. Strontium. And when you go to strontium, on the periodic table, where is it? When we go to strontium, I mean, look at what the image is of. Nuclear fallout. Boom! Strontium. This is going to be isotope 88. And then if we do go to Ra, right here. Where am I? Okay, there we go. There's the Ra. The radium, Ra. Okay? It's really easy to see this kind of stuff through these layers. And then what about this dude? Who's this guy? Adair Crawford. Well, he's the guy who discovered the element strontium. He discovered this. So I did his numerology. Couldn't find his birthday, just his death day, see? 42. Life, the universe, everything, right? But what is this 42 tied to? The day that Bundy died. He passed on an age of 42. 42. This guy discovered strontium. See the connections? Are you seeing these connections? I hope so. This is what a scripted reality looks like. And there's so much more than that. But let's keep going. Let's now get into the card system. Now, again, if you're new here, well, do the best you can. And if you want to just jump right to the astrology, you can. If you don't want to wait, if you don't want to try to learn this, but if you want to learn the code breaking skills, this is one of the tools that we use here. And this is the master life configuration, meaning that this chart right here is the master life configuration. And this is the master spirit. We're just going to look at the master life configuration. So here it is. And then these numbers represent the squares on the board here. And this position, it represents position number 1, Mercury line. And we just go from right to left, top to bottom. So look at where his card sits, his birth card. The 9 of Cups, wish fulfillment for killing people, obviously. Sitting in the Saturn line, well, there's that notorious 33. And this is why it shows up quite a bit. That is tied to killing. And you bridge it with chemistry, you see. So the 33rd element is arsenic. And arsenic is poison. It's poison. 75 connects to the numerology of Lucifer in Isaiah 14 verses 12. Because Lucifer's tied to the angel of death. And then this element right here has the 33 for its isotope, and that is the element sulfur, which is fire and brimstone, killing. This is tied to the Tower card in the major arcana. Destruction. Kill. That's exactly what this man incarnated to do. To take people out. That is what his incarnation and his screenplay was all about. And if you read these cards, folks, you become the sun. And then just the way you read this is you go from right to left. So this would be your this is his Mercury card. This is his Venus card. You go down one layer. This is his Mars card. This is his Jupiter card. This is his Saturn card, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And there are more. It goes all the way down to the Phoenix card right here. That's for a different story. I'm gonna use this as a resource to go back to it. But now I want to get into the last part of this. The most important part, to support that Ted Bundy, the serial killer who was put to death in the electric chair, did not have a choice. No choice. We're going to support it with the astrological chart. Beyond what I just showed you, the ridiculousness of the obvious. So before we get into the astrological chart, I just want to start here and give the key traits of what a psychopath is all about. And that's what this man was. Read with me the bullet points. Lack of empathy and remorse. Check. Manipulative and deceptive. Check. Superficial charm. Check. Impulsivity and risk-taking. Grandiosity and narcissism. And aggression and control. Check, 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 check. He was a psychopath, a true psychopath. And what's mind-blowing about that is when you do the numerology of possession, because if you read about Ted Bundy, you'll see that he wanted to possess his victims. This word is actually used in the description and narrative of his life. And we know that psychopath is the same numerology, the 45, and his birth card is the 45th card in the deck. Again, Ted Bundy not having a choice. My final answer. So we're now going to get into the astrological. We're going to show you these key traits here of being a psychopath and him not having a choice in the matter. So let me shift over to the Photoshop so I can drop and drag. And I do want to let you know, I am using the masteringthezodiac.com system, which is right here. It's the true sidereal. And why I think this is the best system to use, because it's not just that it includes Ophiuchus, but it's color-coded. So it makes things much easier to connect, and it refers to the actual sizes of the zodiac. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you go to, here's the stellarium-web.org. And when you look at Virgo, okay, no matter what map you look at, even if you look to the sky, Virgo is the largest constellation. Well, how can you give Aries, the tiniest, how can you give it the same space as Virgo? How can you box that into 30 degrees? That to me is disrespectful to the zodiac. And that's why I like using the Mastering the Zodiac, because it provides you the more accurate representation of how much real estate these take up in the sky. So I just want to be clear on that, but let's now jump into it. I'm going to show you this psychopath and how this man didn't have a choice through the placements of the zodiac. We're going to start in his rising position, normally where the sun rises here, right? The ascendant. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is going to tell us the tale of the tape of the origins and foundations of Ted Bundy, because of the fact that the rising position and the first house, for that matter, will tell you the traits of what we look physically, how we look physically. He looks like a Leo. And his sun's in Scorpio. So he's got a blend of Scorpio and Leo energy. And when you get a Leo rising person, they're very charming and magnetic. And that's what he was. If you read the story and the women and his victims that survived, that's exactly what they say. Yeah, he was good looking. He was charming. He was charismatic. But what he did was he used that as a tool to lure them in. And then when he got them down here in the presence of his sun and Mars in Scorpio, he then showed them the inner darkness. So he was like appearing larger than life right here. Very magnetic, very charming, drawing the women in, luring them in, but concealing the deep psychological intensity that was all down here in the fourth house. And let me tell you right now, folks, this is how dialed in this is. This man was the angel of death. The reason why I have the numerology here of the angel of death is because his Mars card is card number 51. Angel of death is 51. This is the value of numerology with the cards playing it into astrology to tighten this up to show the precision of how these systems work together in a syncretist fashion. Going back to his the card charts. This is his sun card, and we just go from right to left. Mercury, Venus, there's his Mars card. Queen of Spades. Queen of Spades is card 51. And there's his Mars right there. And Mars is in the nakshatra Jyeshtha, which is the 18th nakshatra, and 666 equals 18, and he's the number of the beast. His Mars in Ketu, right there in that nakshatra at the very tail end of Scorpio. Didn't have a choice in the matter. So he uses his charisma to lure his victims in, but man, when he gets them in, they end up experiencing this intensity, which was nasty. The guy had a pornography addiction, and it wasn't just regular pornography, it was violent pornography. That's why he mutilated many of his victims. And I would imagine it has a lot to do with this Black Moon Lilith position. If you're willing to incorporate this into your chart, it adds to. And will give you more keys to your kingdom. His Black Moon Lilith was in his 5th house of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the hunter. And Black Moon Lilith is like the distortion of life. So you're talking about having a primal hunter, and his rising sign, there's the color code. Leo. Leo rules this house. So it activates the rising position here. He becomes this pornography addicted predator here, being able to act out the pornography here in real life, the violent pornography with the Lilith energy, because Lilith represents rebelliousness. It represents raw rebelliousness. It represents the shadow-driven side of the psyche. Primal instincts that don't want to be controlled. And when you put it in Sagittarius, which is the hunter, which is freedom, he wanted to be free to do this, he became a relentless predator. And he constantly searched for his next thrill, his next hunt, his next conquest. And the 5th house, folks, that's the sun becoming, spirit into matter. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 senses. This is the house of manifestation. He was using his wisdom, his psychological wisdom. He took courses in psychology. So the 5th house of pleasure and romance and sex and self-expression and all that, his dark side became part of that with his Black Moon Lilith there. And his pleasurable pursuits through Black Moon Lilith. And his thrill-seeking behaviors. This is all tied to this 5th house and the 1st house, because Leo rising is the ruler of the 5th house. So there was a need for dominance, and social situations were intensified because of the Mars energy here. We're going to talk about that. Sexual taboos here, a desire to control lovers, a fixation on thrill-seeking behaviors. I mean, this guy pushed the boundaries of his morality here with this. But this was all part of this nakshatra here called Jyeshtha, the 18th nakshatra. Remember, 666, the number of the beast. 6 + 6 + 6 is 18. And that's where this nakshatra sits, right there. And his Mars and Ketu is there. This is a nakshatra ruled by Mercury, so this is tied to the way he thinks. And his Mercury is in the sign of Libra, which is relationships, which was his women, his victims. So this is about power and secrecy, dominance, a warrior-like intensity. And this nakshatra, when you read about it, it's like, it's outcasts and strategists and people that are willing to walk the line between wisdom and destruction. So you put Mars in here, which is very aggressive and violent, it can be, and you add Ketu, which is detachment. This is where he gets the aspect of when you go study the aspects of the serial killer here, the psychopath, see, he has the lack of empathy. That's what he had. He had no emotional connection. And that's the Ketu here. Ketu doesn't care about desires. It means detachment. You add Mars in there in the 666 nakshatra, well, that's what you're going to get. So while Mars is the aggressor here and Ketu's the detachment, This is an explosive, unpredictable, like ruthless kind of energy. And this is the profile of a serial killer right here, man. Without question. I mean, Mars becomes a cold warrior here. This is a calculating, relentless fighter. But what it does is it fights in the shadows. It fights behind the scenes, and that's what he did. He would lure his victims off into somewhere where and then he would hit them or knock them down, strangle them, however he did it. But it was working in the shadows, man. So not only was there a desire for dominance and control, but there was a deep emotional intensity and secrecy about it. That's and Mars in the number of the beast nakshatra, gesture, number 18. Strategy, methodical. I mean, this guy was methodical, plotting and planning his attacks. And he wanted to seek absolute power and dominance over his victims with this Black Moon Lilith. And this was his addiction to violent pornography here. And this would even play out. That role is there as well. But K2 comes in, right? K2, it makes him, he was detached, but it represents past life karma. So there is a thing here of karma, and you have to live out your life in this one based upon what your screenplay was based upon in your last one. So you should be grateful again. You didn't get this guy's code. If you're living out a life that's pretty good, you should be grateful because you could have got this guy's code, which was absolutely horrific, man. Right? But this K2 here, detachment, you're talking about an emotional coldness, a lack of fear, man. You know, no remorse because he had emotional detachment. No remorse, man. Probably an obsession with secrecy, being able to outsmart people. It was a drive for him. And there's no hesitation with these placements. So there's no emotional interference with the detachment of K2, the south node of the moon. You bring Rahu into it over here. Well, now this is possession, right? He wanted to possess his individuals in the 10th house, ruled by Saturn. Saturn's over here. Remember, his birth card is the 9 of hearts, which is the Saturn card. We're going to talk about this in just a little bit. But let's finish up with this area down here of the Mars and K2 in the 666, the number of the beast. And this conjunction, which to me is like dangerous karma in action. Mars being very violent, being very action oriented, K2 being very detached, karmic forces at play, and this equals a relentless, fearless, and emotionally disconnected hunter, where he got his power from. These keywords on the outside give you an idea of what these things mean. And the combination, really, this is found in warriors, man, assassins. Those energies are about acting on hidden urges, not giving a shit about the consequences that come with it. Obviously, he did, because when he was in prison, he was ready to die. He's like, I don't want to die. So obviously, at that point, he was. But when you're in the midst of this, man, and you're feeling that power and you're feeling that possessiveness and that addiction to acting out violent pornography, that's what he was basically doing. Well, then this kicks in, right? So the calculating nature of this nakshatra gesture fuels a need for control. There's secrecy, power, and this is a killer that is very strategic. This is very, very strategic. So the drive for domination is here because of the Scorpio energy. And this is a very dark path. And I would imagine maybe even he thought he had destiny playing out here. So really, Mars and K2 in the 666 nakshatra gesture creates a very dangerous combination in somebody who's like a psychopath and a serial killer, like he was. Cold, strategic, emotionally detached. This is all Mars, K2 energy in that Scorpio area of his chart. And they want to seek dominance. People that have this energy, they want to seek dominance through destruction. When it comes to this kind of energy right here, that's when you put all these ingredients of Ted Bundy. If there's other people out there, that's what they want to do. So this is about meticulous planning, operating in secrecy, Scorpio, secrecy, having no remorse, and perhaps even believing their actions are part of their karma. Maybe he thought that was the case. Never mentioned it, I ever heard in the interviews, but maybe that was the case. What about the moon? His moon was not full. He actually was born almost on a new moon. There was like a little bit of a sliver being shown, but the moon's in the 4th house. The moon is the ruler of the 4th house. So it naturally sits here. You could say it gets exalted here, but it represents the hidden emotional depth of his chart because it sits in the sign of Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus is a very esoteric sign. It brings dual emotions here. This is, to me, this is like the hierarchy of Scorpio. But when you're dealing with somebody who has the Mars energy here with detachment with K2, it follows along pseudo those energies. And I would imagine this aggravated or endorsed the highly secretive lifestyle that he had, being very emotionally volatile, being very unpredictable, the serpent bearer. And because it's all in the 4th house, we're talking about childhood and home. This man, when you look at it, when you listen to his interviews, he says, yeah, I was raised in a Christian family. It was a normal family, but was it? I mean, he's a psychopath, right? Was it normal? Because this suggests that there could be some buried childhood instabilities, some emotional repression, and an ongoing internal battle with his emotions with this placement here. Absolutely. And then you add in Helios. You add in the sun being right there at the starting point of Scorpio. And this is all in the underworld, by the way. This is because he was born at almost midnight. So this is all in the underworld, the dark side, right? This is his yang energy. This is his yin energy. So his sun's in the underworld. Ra goes into the underworld and has to fight the snake and all that stuff through the ancient Egyptian stuff. But the sun is going to activate his rising sign to give him his charm. It's going to activate that Lilith, which is, kind of like where his pornography addiction and all that stuff. All these play a role. They all tap into each other. But since the sun rules the 5th house of pleasure and indulgence, and it's in the sign of Scorpio, pleasure is not lighthearted. It's going to be tied to control and obsession and destruction. Scorpio. I mean, this is an intense relationship with dominance. This is secrecy. This is power over other people. And this fueled the rising of his position of identity and his outward charisma up front with the rising position because the sun rules the house of Leo to lure his victims in. And then when he got them in there, bam! Attack, kill, mutilate. That's what the sun in Scorpio with the Mars, and this is all conjunct, man, with the detachment of K2. Absolutely. Now, you head to Libra, you backtrack, and Libra, the key word is relationship, relations. You form Libra, ruled by Venus. He has Venus here. So Venus is in its own house, in her own house. And you have Zeus there, the expansion, and you have Mercury there. You have a trifecta of Mercury, Zeus, and Aphrodite in the 3rd house. The 3rd house is your house of expansion. It's your house of communication. It's your house of artistry and creativity. So when you got Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter here, this gave Bundy a very charming, persuasive, highly intelligent kind of demeanor. Mercury is a smooth talker. In its own sign of Gemini, it's in the 3rd house. I mean, I know it's not Gemini here, but it's Libra, but its third house is Gemini. Smooth talker. Smooth talking strategist. And Venus, which is all about symmetry and love and romance, it enhanced his social skills. It make him very attractive. And with Jupiter here, well, Jupiter wants to expand, so it expands his intelligence. It creates a master manipulator capable of luring his victims through his charm and persuasion, because Libra is all about Venus energy, which is romance. So it was all set up for him to be this stone cold psychopathic killer, to play into his addictions of violent pornography. And he supposedly was on a lot of ethanol, drinking a lot when he did all this kind of stuff. So that fueled it. The spirits fueled it. And then what about the Chiron placement? His Chiron right there in the third house as well. Chiron, the wounded warrior. It's in the sign of Virgo, though. In Chinese, this is the snake. This is the horse, the snake, but the Chiron there. Now his wound, right? The Chiron represents your wound, and then you're going to attract people with the same kind of wounds. But the wound is going to be deeply tied to intellect and perception and communication because it's in the third house through the sign of Virgo. Virgo needs perfection. Virgo wants to be perfect. Virgo's got OCD. Virgo's the virgin. She doesn't want to lose her virginity. In this case, it's tied to his communication. So this guy had a need for being perfect through his communication. This is also about the way you think. And he's got his Mercury there in the third house, which rules the way you think. So when you got Chiron in Virgo, and this is Ted Bundy's wound, he becomes hypercritical. He becomes obsessive. He becomes very analytical. He wants to make his victims feel mentally inadequate. Or he wants to make them feel out of sync with their surroundings. Ted Bundy with this placement wants to be intellectually superior, but he probably felt like he was misunderstood because that's his wound. So he gets resentful here. He gets a detached mindset. But because Virgo's base fundamental is about detail-oriented aspects and being very precise and meticulous and very strategic and very methodical, always calculated, well, this is what perfected his way of life. Maybe his wound with his Chiron here, maybe as a child, he was criticized for the way he thought or the way he spoke. He might have been restricted in his early life. That was the wound that he had to feel, but that fueled him. And then when he went in to do his killings for people, he had to take control. He had to prove his intelligence through the control, through the precision, and the mastery over other people. This is complete psychopath energy here. With this right here. Chiron right there. All of this is a team. Look at this guy. He's stacked down here in the underworld. All of this playing out at the same time. Wow. And he's got the freaking Angel of Death card tied right to his Mars right there in the 666. Scripted reality, ladies and gentlemen. Again, be grateful you didn't get this guy's code. So the Chiron there, man, is a no-brainer. The third house governs the planning, the movement, execution, precision, communication. Everything was perfected with this guy. Using his intelligence as a weapon, studying and manipulating people. The guy had the upper hand on the police. He always avoided the police. This is all tied to this. Being very strategic. Being very analytical. That's why he was able to avoid. He freaking broke out of prison twice. Very calculated, very strategic, man. Perfectionist in his crimes. That's why he got away with it for so long. But then you come back up here. We're going to come back up here to the 12th house. The 12th house is the shadow, right? And his 12th zodiac sign is in the 8th house of Scorpio. So this, even though there's nothing here, will play out here. We've already talked about this, the detachment and the stone cold killer, but then it plays out here with the 12th house being occupied by Cancer and the color code, the value of the color code here. And we have Kronos and Hades. And remember, these are not only sitting conjunct, but they're being utilized by that Nine of Hearts, which is his birth card, which is the Saturn card. And his Pluto card is the King of Clubs. And they're sitting conjunct right there. The killer, man. Cancer's a debilitating disease, man. Who named it cancer? You get stage 4 cancer, you're going to die. A lot of people do. So cancer, it means death. And he's got Kronos and Hades there, conjunct. Whoo. You're talking about suppressed power and isolation. Saturn is restriction, and Pluto is power and transformation. And you're in the 12th house of hiding things in the shadow self. This is the hangman position in the tarot. So this is severe emotional suppression. This is psychological torment. This is like hidden rage here, man. And this activates this, which is, he's got Mars in the 666 Nakshatra, Gesture, with the detachment of K2. All this plays out up here. So because the 12th house is isolation and like institutions, mental institutions, prisons, hospitals, deep karmic burdens, repressed trauma, hidden psychological struggles here. In the home, maybe. I would say that because he says I would say either the guy had some past life trauma that he carried into his life, this one, or he had something really happen in his younger years when he was a kid. Because this activates the 4th house. And we have a lot of anger down here, and that's going to activate this up here for sure. Absolutely. So this 9 of hearts, this wish fulfillment, this is cancer and killing and acidification and destruction in the 12th house of trying to hide it through the sign of Scorpio, through the rage and the detachment of K2 with the sun there as well. I mean, this is all in the angel of death. The angel of death is his Mars card. No brainers there, right? Then we can talk about the upper echelon of his chart, kind of in his midheaven position, in his 10th house of his career. And obviously he had a career that was very colorful. And I don't mean that in a positive way, but studying psychology, this and that, very smart guy, very intellectually dominant. Well, the Rahu and Uranus conjunction, let's talk about that, right? The 10th house of the career and the possession. He wanted to possess his victims because he was a psychopath. So when you get Rahu and Taurus, remember, this is emotional detachment down here, so we can do the killing with the Mars and the war energy. But this energy is in a contract with this energy up here. These are literally in a symbiotic relationship. And Rahu is the ultimate desire, and Rahu wants everything. It blows things out of proportion. There's an obsession with worldly power here. There's an obsession with material control. There's public dominance here, because it's in the 10th house of the career. This is in the illuminated position because this is all yang energy up here. And because Taurus is ruled by Venus and his Venus is down here in the 3rd house, this is going to get activated. But Venus thrives on stability, wealth, authority. And because Saturn's domain is the 10th house, it's going to activate this over here, which is the transformation through Pluto. So there's karma status, there's social recognition here. But then you add on Uranus, man, the OG of the zodiac, the primordial, who doesn't follow anybody's rules. And now you get a clash because Uranus disrupts the structured ambition of Taurus. And because it brings in a very unpredictable, rebellious kind of energy, very revolutionary. It wants to rise to power. Well, when you add this to a psychopath, and it's being fueled by this dominant energy down here of secrecy and killer and the 666 and the chakra down here and the detachment from not having any emotions to what he was doing. You bring that from down here up here to the midheaven position. Well, now you're talking about adding it to Rahu and Uranus. So there's a clash between Rahu, who really wants the desires of having this possession. But Uranus is a rebel, man. Right? So Uranus is erratic, it's unpredictable, it's non-conforming, it creates sudden upheavals. And that's exactly what his whole life was all about. Constantly on the run, living on pins and needles, having to look over his shoulder. But Rahu's very obsessive here. Rahu's very relentless. Rahu's unafraid to break the social norms to achieve power. When you add the eradication, the erratic behavior of Uranus here, it becomes a clash. So the Rahu in Taurus is going to pursue the power, status, and control, but the Uranus is going to ensure that this pursuit is not stable. It's not predictable. He wants to have structure, but Uranus says, nope. Not going to get structure here, Rahu. Sorry. Because Uranus is the primordial, man. The OG created everything. Heaven it represents. So this combination creates a chaotic, rebellious, potentially revolutionary force in someone's life, which is Ted Bundy. This guy rises in an unconventional mannerism. He's going to challenge authority because Uranus is very rebellious. But he's going to have unexpected controversy in his life, and remember, Venus rules this, and his Venus is down here in his third house. So all about his strategies and the way he communicated and him finally getting arrested and being taken in. And I mean, escaping the law for so long and then escaping prison, breaking out of prison. I mean, the guy's life, when you go read it and you watch the interviews, is mind-blowing of how dialed in this guy was with his code. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the value of astrology, especially true sidereal astrology, being able to read this and know, and then adding the nakshatras in, adding in the cards of illumination. I mean, if you go and study all of the cards with this guy, his Phoenix card is the 2 of spades. That's the 41st card in the deck. The 13th card for him is the 2 of spades. But his lineup here, man, he has a lot of Uranian energy, which is very unpredictable. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, trans-Pluto. He has a lot of Uranian energy in his chart. It is life, which is unpredictability, Uranus brought to him. His career, his life, his journey as a psychopath and serial killer, meant to do it, was all about being unpredictable and being a rebel. This guy he was a rebel, man. A master rebel, a master outlaw, avoiding the authorities for so long. A serial killer, a psychopath, man. And he was born to have wish fulfillment of killing people. And again, maybe through screenplays of past lives, maybe the people that he killed, that's what they had coming to him. I've postulated this on the breakdown of O.J. Simpson, that maybe Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, maybe they were killers in their past life and they needed to get taken out during this life. We don't know. I'm completely theorizing, and I can't say that's true, but it's possible. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave you with this. Just be grateful that you didn't get this kind of code, because it's clear that this man didn't have a choice. He was set up to be a serial killer and psychopath. And he was a master manipulator, and even in his interviews, still was hiding a lot of stuff. That's all this, hiding from something that was deeply based in trauma here, man. That if he didn't want to talk about it. No, but he was the angel of death, absolutely. And the value of numerology with the cards, with the astrological placement, clearly says that my final answer is this: we live in a scripted reality. Ted Bundy, psychopath, serial killer, yes. But the man didn't have a choice. That's my final answer. So that's my analysis and breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. Ted Bundy, serial killer, decoded. I'd like to hear your comments. Maybe you saw something in this astrological chart that I didn't mention. There's a lot of other moving parts. We didn't mention Sirius in there. We could have talked about Poseidon, but maybe you saw something. Maybe you can add something to this. Would love to hear your comments. It's all about loving here, though, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is a very serious topic, but keep your comments cordial. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate all the support. Thank you to each and every one of you. Sending you tons of love. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Until next time, we will see you later.